35 days, and it's come to this. I'm a little sad. Not because of the lessons learned, but because our daily journey is coming to an end. Hello everyone, this is Lloyd Marshall Briggery, and today is day 35 of the 35-day comic book challenge. This is the big goodbye. So, if you've been tuning in for the last 35 days, which I hope you have, you'll know that today is the culmination of a challenge that I took on just over a month ago. And just to give you guys an idea of what's in store, I've been talking now for about a minute. I have been trying to keep these videos under 5 minutes, plus or minus a couple minutes here and there. Tonight, I'm just going to go. So this may go 20 minutes, half hour. It's not going to go that long, I don't think, because I still got work to do. So that being said, 35, or I would say about 40 days ago, I got a chance to talk to a guy who is a graduate of the Kubert School, and he hit me to some knowledge, some insider information. This guy is largely successful as a comic book artist. He's done work with Marvel and DC, and he's currently and Dark Horse, and he's working with Image now. And I'm not gonna name drop, just out of respect for his privacy, but he's a good guy and he's head to toe legit. If you're in the comics, you've probably seen his work. That being said, my understanding was that, because comic books come out once a month, that you have 30 days, give or take, to finish a comic book as an artist. And he let me know that you have 35 days, actually. And so I kind of took that as a challenge, like, oh, okay, let me put it to the test and see what I can do, see what I can come up with. And long story short, I've been documenting my daily progress every day for the last 35 days. Well, today is day 35. So what we're going to do is, in the Army, after a mission, we always have what's called an AAR, which is an after action report. Pretty much we get together and talk about, our success or failure of the mission, or accomplishment or failure of the mission, what good came out of it, what are some lessons learned, what are some improvements that need to be made. So pros and cons, pluses and minuses, however you want to, phrase that. We're going to talk about it tonight. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your attention. I know we're all attention hustlers, and I don't take that for granted. So hopefully I can bring you some value with some of the things that I learned. Now, if you've been tuning in to our Breaking In YouTube channel, you've been seeing videos periodically from Esau Figueroa, also known as the Dropper, Aries Severus, Ernesto Sin, and if you started tuning in over the last few months, you haven't seen this gentleman, but if you've been with us from the start, you've seen Damien also. And so Damien Torres, Yonkers, what? Anyway, if you've been paying attention to what those guys have been saying, they've been kind of giving you updates as well with what they're doing. But one thing Dropper posted most recently, I think earlier today. Today is Tuesday night, also, by the way. So Dropper posted earlier today, just a big shout out to me and what I'm doing. And he said this specifically. He said, you may not have hit the goals that you want, but I'm sure you learned a lot in the process. And he's absolutely right on all accounts. So let's get right into it. It's almost been 5 minutes now. I've just been running my mouth, so I want to break it down. Did I finish the art for my comic book issue number 1 in 35 days? The answer is flat out no. I didn't. And I do not, I don't do these things to offer excuses. I want to talk about my journey and some of the challenges that I faced, but I also just want to, just really keep it really honest and candid with you guys. So, given the premise, as an artist, you have 35 days to complete a comic book, I think that there were some things that I didn't take into context, i.e., artists usually have a script that's already written, given to them. And so, boom, you don't have to think of anything. You have, the description from the author, the writer. In this challenge, I had to write the script, and it's something I've been toying around with for the past few years, and it's Samson, the story of Samson right out of the Bible. Now, I know that story's already written, but I want to tell it from a different kind of point of view. And so I had to really take whatever section I was going to be drawing from the Bible and then break that down into a comic book, which means, you got to add in all these other elements to make it an interesting story. Because literally this is maybe 3 or 4, it might be 5 or 6 verses. This first issue it might be taken out of 5 or 6 verses of a story that encompasses, I think, 3 or 4 chapters in the Bible. So it's just a couple verses, but I was able to squeeze out 29 pages from those 6 verses. So I had to write a script for the, it started off as 28 pages, but like I said last episode, I turned the last page into a double page splash, or double page spread with panels. So there's actually 29 pages, and that's okay, because I had the real estate to work with anyway, so I did. So that being said, I had to write the script, which took some time. And I had to write it, and then I had to edit it, meaning when I first wrote the script, there were something like 33 pages, and I was like, oh no, I was shooting for 22 pages like a normal comic book. But, so I had to condense it, and that took some time because I had to take out everything that was superfluous or unnecessary, and did that. And so, boom, that took more time. But it was necessary, though. So everything that's in the story helps drive the story. Every panel. There's no wasted panels. And I actually had one of my colleagues who's been in the industry for decades, literally. He went over it and reviewed it and gave me the thumbs up. So that happened. The other thing is this. And this is the biggest thing. Artists that are given the 35 days to complete their work and their deadlines, number one, they have another script. Or they have a script that's been given to them. Number two, they're full-time artists. And I'm not. And so, look, don't get me wrong. Like, I want to take responsibility for what didn't happen, but also really am proud of what I did accomplish. So, I just want to skirt that fine line of just adding context. That's the reality of these things when it comes to the business, because that's what Breaking In, our YouTube channel, is all about. It's about telling you guys, it's not only documenting our journey, but it's also telling you guys some of the ins and outs of the comic book industry that you may not know. So hopefully this is good information for you. I am not a full-time artist. I have a day job, and fortunately my day job keeps me in the network and the peripheries of the comic book industry, but it also takes away time. And as a lot of us have said and have come to understand, time is the most valuable commodity. It is the invaluable asset. Time is what you need more than anything else. Nobody on their deathbed asks for more money. They always want more time. And so, given that I have a day job and have to sleep, I was only, I think on average, I put in 4 hours, on average, if you average out the time, 4 hours a day, when, normal work day is 8 hours. So those are some of the kind of contextual things I just want to put out there as to what obstacles I failed to overcome in order to accomplish the mission of completing the art for a comic book in 35 days. That being said, outside of that, I had days that were obviously more productive than others. I came to realize that I was not often maximizing my time in different areas. If you guys have been tracking, there were times where I was more productive in a Starbucks than let's say, drawing at home. And that's because, I mean, this is home right here and it's just very comfortable. And being in Starbucks kind of obligated me to stay busy, which helped out a lot. Also, I've come to understand that during certain parts of the process, of the figuring out process, I can't listen to music. I can't have any movies or TV shows going on in the background. I need quiet. And what I discovered was when I get that quiet and when I get into that zone of silence, the work that I produced in those moments was really good. It was what I would like to say is to the best of my ability at this time. Again, if you guys are artists, the more you draw or the more you do something, anything, I mean, that's a fact of life. The more you do it, the better you get at it, or the more efficient you become at it. So I fully expect, even within this process, I fully expect the last few pages to look better than the first few pages, only because, I'll be in a rhythm. What I was able to accomplish in the 35 days, I am actually really happy about. And I'll tell you this, I'm not trying to be egotistical, and I hope I'm not coming off that way, but I'm happy because this idea of drawing Samson has been something that was on my heart and my mind to do. I was still in the Army. I think I was deployed to Iraq, maybe the first tour. And that was 2004. So you're looking at something that's just been in me to do for the longest time. It's been in the idea phase. But now it's actually tangible. And I'm really excited about that. And I like to celebrate wins, but also stay humble and stay focused. So cue applause for actually moving the needle in a positive direction, bringing something out of the intangible to the tangible world. And I'm grateful for that. What I was able to accomplish was the script, the complete script, and the layouts. So what I've had to examine is my process. Particularly with this first issue, there's a very long fight scene. And certain artists draw fight scenes certain ways. And I kind of like, and I would say there's kind of three major fight scene type artists. There are those that I think they like to draw the big uppercut and that's it. Kind of show a full up battle on one page, which is totally possible. One guy can defeat 1,000 people on one page. It's possible. A lot of silhouettes, pull back the camera, get a big epic shot, and then kapow, fight's over. Leaving you a lot more real estate pages-wise to tell more story. Other artists go a little bit more thoroughly into the fight, meaning they choreograph every move, every block, parry, duck, punch, dip, dodge, dip, duck, and dive, and dodge. And that can be hit or miss. It's been my observation that a lot of the manga artists do really well with that. And I think that's a cultural thing with martial arts being, kind of a bigger thing in Asian culture than it is in American culture. Even though we love martial arts here, the practice of it, the inherent practice of it just by, being, around, I think is more prevalent over there than over here. And so they understand it better. Kind of like we're more like boxers, which is why we get the right cross, the right hook, or I'm sorry, the left cross, the right hook. You see, man, I just like to blow stuff up in a tank. But we're more of punch, and then uppercut, and then it's over. And I think that's because we kind of favor culturally boxing over like a particular martial art. And I know that that varies in different pockets and different demographics. I'm just saying as a whole, storytelling wise. And then you have like a mix. That's the third kind of fight artist. They do a little block and parry, a little epic uppercut, a little back and forth, and then boom, it's over. Finishing blow. And each one has its own utility in whatever story they're telling. I've come to find out that I am a document every move kind of guy. I like the block and parry, the choreography. Many of you have heard me say that my favorite martial arts film is The Raid and The Raid 2. I think that I can empirically prove or definitely make a good argument that those are the best two martial arts films in history. I've seen a lot of martial arts films. I love the classics, Shaw Brothers from the 70s and 80s, and I love it. I love it all. Yeah, I think The Raid, that's a bit of a tangent. I think the Raid series is the best. But again, I like that kind of storytelling. So as a person who's going off of a script that I essentially created, I have a lot of leeway and pretty much telling the story that I want to tell. So that's a really good feeling of freedom. That being said, the director of The Raid, who's my age, by the way, a fellow by the name of Gareth Evans, big shout out if you ever hear this video. Love your work. I hope you continue to do more and keep it in Indonesia because it's awesome. But he is heavily influenced by Jackie Chan, and so you can see, that influence in his own work. And so, I love Jackie Chan too. I mean, that's it's part and parcel to loving martial arts films. So my fight scene hopefully will read something similar to that level of action where you see every pop, 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 action, reaction, counterattack, punch, boom, 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 and then the big finish. So that's what I'm going for. And not being a well-versed martial artist, being a guy who can handle himself and being a highly trained martial artist are two different things. I am the former. I'm not the latter. So I got to try stuff out. I got to dance. I got to parry. I got to make sure it makes sense. I got to change mirror angles when I'm looking, make sure I do the mirror flip. And, getting photo reference for an extensive fight scene isn't the easiest thing to do. So that took up a good amount of time. And then I discovered that, while I'm doing all this work, I might as well just do the hard part of the creative process, which is determine perspective, establish, uniforms, all the minute details that a comic book artist has to take into account. So being a comic book artist is very similar to being a movie director, except you're not only the director, you're the lighting guy, you're the set designer, you're the costume designer, you're the casting agent, you're the Foley artist that goes back and does sound effects, or you can hire a letterer to do that, but it's better that you know what's what. You're the screenplay guy sometimes. You are the fight choreographer. You're the stunt guy. You're the special effects guy as well. So you have to do all of that. You have to take all those things into consideration when you're plotting out your story. And so that takes thought and that takes time. And you also, want to put your best foot forward. I should say I want to put my best foot forward and make all that stuff make sense. Even though it's only going to take your attention for a couple of seconds per panel. So, again, I wanted to have a lot of credibility in that work. Now, why? What's the benefit of going hard early? I think the payoff is what I'm actually working on now, which is the first few pages of The Nazarite. And that's half a day's work. It's not even, you guys can see it. I'm going to put this on Instagram later, tomorrow. But, yeah, now the drawing part, the fun part, the part that I love the most, that part, I actually think it's going to go really smoothly because I've thought of all of the hard things and I've worked out all the hard equations. So now when it comes to just putting pencil to paper, I don't have to think about anything. I can just go back to my notes. Boom, there's the answer. Boom, it's like an open book test. All you got to do is go through the test. So I'm going to get through the final art. That was final art that you guys saw, final pencils, and I'm doing it in Copic ink, so it'll look ink washed by the time it's done. But yeah, seriously, that that part I have discovered today is really easy. And so this is where I think my speed will become an asset, because now I can make a little bit more money getting finished. And that's what it's all about. So those are some of the major things. One thing I'll do better is to focus, take that time of silence that's necessary for me to really get into my focused zone. I'll do that in the future, and I will also, get the layouts done a lot faster. That's for sure. Hopefully it's something like moving a boulder. If anyone's ever pushed like a boulder or a car, if you ever pushed a car before, the hardest part is getting it going, and then once you get it, coasting, you can just kind of tap it and it'll keep going. So hopefully, getting through this first issue is like that, and then the next issues I'll have a better rhythm, an overall better rhythm. That being said, I told you guys I was posting this stuff on Instagram later on, and I will be. That's kind of the next push. A lot of you may not know this, so here's something I haven't shared. I had an Instagram account, and I think I established it maybe April, May, early this year. And I got up to a couple hundred followers fairly quickly, which was great. Most of them were Facebook friends, of course, and it was cool. Then I started studying social media platforms and marketing using social media. And there's a lot of resources out there. The people I study are very, very successful at it, meaning they're practitioners, not like their job isn't to teach you how to use social media. They use social media to make their money, and they tell you how they do it, and they give you principles on what works for them and how to find out what works for you. Meaning they have another job, they just use social media to help drive business to that job, and they tell you about it. All right. So started studying that, and I decided to really put it to the test. So I kind of closed out my first Instagram account, and I created a new one. That's the one I've been encouraging you guys to follow. This is Marshall's Art at Instagram. And this past weekend, just 2 days ago, or no, on Saturday, so 3 days ago, I reached a point where I have more followers than people that I'm following. And I'm, like, Instagram for me is a way to engage with people that are appreciative of my art, but like it's a business platform, and I really thoroughly enjoy engaging with people. So if you do follow me, like, anytime you comment or reach out, you will hear back from me immediately. So I'm all about that life. Excuse me. What I didn't want to do this time was use my friends on Facebook, because Facebook's largely social for me, even though I do now use it for business, but it began as something social. Thank you, Dropper, for my Facebook account. A lot of you guys don't know, I lost a bet to Dropper in 2010, and that's why I have Facebook. So, oh no, not even. It was 2012. Now that's why I have Facebook. So thanks, SAU, for that. But that being said, Instagram for me isn't social per se. Again, it's social in that I definitely would love to interact with people that follow me, but it's definitely a platform for me to build an audience. And so, again, like I said, this past weekend, I hit kind of a landmark for Instagram followers. I have more followers than people that I'm following, and that's cool. Like, I'm grateful for that, because I'm doing the habits, and I'm staying consistent. Got to be honest, haven't been, but I could do better. That's my honest statement to that. I can do a lot better, and so once this daily kind of update ends, I'll be putting a little bit more energy to my Instagram account, and Tumblr, I think, is what I'm going to do to kind of build my audience. So stay tuned to those updates if you guys are following me there, and you will see my finished art, or my work in progress for the finished art, which is, again, that process is going to go fast, because I've done all the hard thinking, the heavy lifting when it comes to the thinking. Now, challenges that are outside of my control. If I'll give you guys a real practical example. Bring home. I had a loved one that I care about. He passed away. I told you guys a few episodes ago. This isn't the guy that had the heart attack. He's doing well, actually. Miguel's doing great. But it's another guy who's like a father figure to me when I was younger. He passed away. He just passed away earlier today. And that's really tough. It was tough to hear. He had been in hospice for a week or two. But, that's a part of life. And those are things that, are out of my control. They're out of everyone's control. But you guys know, man, like, even when the going gets tough, man, you got to keep going. The mission doesn't end. There were a couple times where I had to take a tactical pause because I felt like I was going in the wrong direction, or, maybe I was working a little too hard and not getting enough rest, and or I wasn't taking care of myself. So I had to make sure, number one, I'm the engine here, so I got to make sure, the tank don't work if the engine won't go. So got to make sure the engine's taken good care of so I can function. But I've heard other well-known and very established artists say that you got to do whatever it is you got to do to get in your zone so you can be productive. And if that means, you got to take a day, or, you got to go get a prescription from a doctor, or you got to sit down and talk to somebody like a counselor or a therapist, like, do what you need to do to become healthy. For me, it's waking up at 4:30 every day, going to work out. It's praying and studying scriptures. It's encouraging one another. It's eating smart, eating healthy, eating clean, I guess you could call it. Those are the things that help keep me balanced. And so definitely had to pause for the cause to make sure I was on that track during this process. And it's definitely challenged me in a lot of ways, but it's also the biggest thing I think that's come out of this whole thing for me is that I see for myself that it can be done. That's the biggest thing. And I think that was why that's important, is because I've said this before. My circle, the people that are around me, that I allow around me, family and friends and colleagues and people, even people that challenge me, it's a really, really, really encouraging group of individuals. And some of them don't even know each other because I travel in such diverse groups. Like my CrossFit friends don't really know my comic book friends. They don't really know my church friends. Don't really know. I think that's it. Oh, and none of them know my family. Well, some of them do, but it's just, it varies. It's just, I'm all over the place sometimes in that way. But it also gives me, a variety of people to interact with. And my point is, those people that I'm surrounded with are extremely encouraging. Everybody's like, Lloyd, you can do it. I know you can do it. My biggest obstacle has not been belief from others, and it's not been haters, disbelief from others. It's been personal disbelief. It's been, oh man, I'm doubting myself, or I'm overwhelmed by the idea of what's going to happen, the magnitude. It scares me, and I've recently learned that the fear of an obstacle is oftentimes a bigger obstacle than the obstacle itself. You get that? Fear of an obstacle is bigger than the obstacle itself. It's a bigger obstacle than the obstacle itself. And so I've had to, because of this, 35-day daily update, I've been obligated to act every day. And so action requires my courage. Action obligates my courage button to be pressed in order for me to move forward. Okay, so action is a big, might be the biggest lesson. I recently put together a what I think is a diagram, if you will, from my own personal philosophy. And it's really simple, but out of the simple comes a complex, and it's based on the idea of discipline equals freedom. And so a comic book artist's life is marked by discipline. You have to kind of find the balance between the romantic creative person and the professional business person that has a deadline and has to get things done. And I think in order to be disciplined, there are certain things that you have to display, certain behaviors, if you will, that come out of that. You're characterized by certain actions or behaviors if you are a disciplined person. And I won't get too deep into it. This isn't a philosophical YouTube channel, but again, I want to share with you guys what I've learned or what I've come to understand, what works for me. And I encourage you guys to do the same thing. Find out what works for you and really hold on to it. But I found the first block is loyalty. Loyalty is essentially you got to know what you're working for or striving towards. You got to know what the end statement looks like. You got to have an idea of the end, and you have to stick to it. So your loyalty is the first thing, and loyalty honestly is the characteristic that I esteem most highly in other people, and it's one that I give. Loyalty is like number one quality for me. But loyalty lets you know what you're working towards, and loyalty requires your passion. You got to have a passion to be loyal. Like it's the engine that drives your loyalty is your passion. You got to know the cause and fight for it. And that loyalty helps. The next thing is wisdom, because wisdom tells you like it tempers your fire with reason. You can one guy, Tony Robbins. If you guys ever listen to Tony Robbins, he's a cool dude. He says you can be the you be the most passionate person when it comes to chasing sunrises, but if you're always running west to chase the sunrise, you'll never catch it. Doesn't matter how big your desire is or how hot your flame burns for sunrises. If you're running to the west to catch it, you'll never catch it because the sunrise is in the east. So wisdom dictates that you do things the smart way, the most efficient way, the most beneficial way. Wisdom dictates that you check your ego and you stay humble because that's the way you get things done. So wisdom also gives you the how. Loyalty gives you the what, wisdom gives you the how. Then the next thing, which is the thing that sparked this whole thing, was action. You need action. So what good is if you know where you're going, if you know how to get there, if you just stay put? You gotta act, right? You gotta move. You gotta do stuff, man. It seems so simple. I know it seems really simple, but you'd be surprised at how many people don't act. It's like a book on the shelf is useless. You gotta get it off the shelf. You gotta open it up. You gotta read it. You gotta consume it. You gotta take that and you gotta apply it. Or else, what good is the knowledge? People say knowledge is power. I don't think knowledge is power. I think knowledge is ammo. You can have all the ammo in the world. If you're not willing to pull the trigger and use the ammo, then your ammo's pointless. All right, you gotta be willing to pull the trigger. You gotta pull that trigger, man. You gotta act. You gotta do stuff. And again, my point about action is because I was doing this vlog every day, I had to put in work. I had to face my fears. I had to conquer my procrastination or being overwhelmed with the task. So action required my courage. It forced me to face the things I was afraid of. And then I came to realize, I had nothing to be afraid of in the first place. Oh man, it wasn't so bad. I could do this and I could do it again and again and again and again. So action. So we got loyalty, we got wisdom, and we got action. And I felt like there was one thing missing. That felt good to have that framework, but the last piece, which I think is the most important piece, to some degree. I think you need all the pieces, but this piece is huge. It's patience. You need to be patient. I talk a lot about enjoying the process, and you guys should know, man, I'm really, really, really loving this process a lot. But you got to be patient. You got to be patient with yourself. You got to be patient with the process. You got to be patient knowing that you will face disappointment, but you got to keep going forward. You know, again, it's a loop. It's a competency loop, right? If you get disappointed, your patience helps you endure. You know, your loyalty helps you persevere. But that patience helps you endure the hardship. You know, patience is a foundational building block for success, because, you know, it doesn't happen overnight. Shucks, the Bible defines love. The first characteristic of love is patient. And love is huge, man. You know, like, you need patience to love somebody. You got to put up with that mess. But yeah, you need patience, because this process isn't going to happen overnight. And I think those things, loyalty, wisdom, action, and patience, what it really means simply is, if we can just kind of go in a different direction, is do the right thing, that's action. The right way, that's wisdom. For the right reason, that's loyalty. Consistently, that's patience. You know, and discipline. One who is disciplined does the right thing, the right way, for the right reasons, consistently. And so discipline, again, successful people, not just comic book artists, successful people are defined by their discipline. And I think that lesson right there, like, I won't say it changed my life, but it definitely changes the way I look at life. And it might have taken me 35 days to figure that out and be able to put it into words, but it was definitely worth it. So, on that note, you guys, thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your patience. And stay tuned. I'm going to still be updating like the guys, but it'll be more of a weekly basis kind of thing. I don't know if I can go back to just every other week. Truth be told, I wasn't that good at every other week either. So I will definitely be updating, because we're rolling with Samson, the story of Samson. Also known as Infamous Nazarite. So that'll be the title of the book, the actual title. So there's a reveal for you. The Infamous Nazarite. So again, thank you guys for tuning in. Please, like, share, and subscribe. I know it's been a long talk, but hey, it's 35 days, man. And you guys stay tuned. Walk with me through this journey. We'll learn a lot more. I mean, look at what we've done in 35 days. Imagine what we'll be talking about a year from now. Hey, you guys know the mission will always continue, and so you have to continue the mission. So even when things go not according to plan, you got to get up, shake the dust off, you got to put one foot in front of the other, and continue mission. Or, like we say in the Army, Charlie Mike. Thanks, y'all. Peace.